Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors, your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning, folks. Welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Winston Chester. I'm so glad to hear this Friday morning. We have a great show lined up. Got a special guest here in the studio, but first, our weather brought to us by Haney Technical Center at the corner of Baldwin and Highway 77. It's going to be a high today of 83 and low tonight of 75. We keep waiting for that cool 60-degree weather to get here, so hopefully by the weekend it's going to be in the 60s. So everybody's predicting that, so we're looking forward to it. Meanwhile, the water temperature is hanging in there at 85 degrees. It just has not started descending like we want to look for our fall migration. Let's take a look at our river read. Let's look at our tide chart first, okay? The tide chart brought to us by Kent Forest Lawn Funeral Home and Cemetery. Looking on the screen there, today's Friday, September the 11th, and we're looking at pretty, I would call this an average tide. We've got about a 1.4 foot range. We have the high tide at 10:05 this morning and a low tide at 6:39 this afternoon. So the wind direction is going to have a lot to do with what kind of water movement we have in all three of our bay systems, the Choctawhatchee, the St. Andrew Bay system, and of course Apalachicola Bay. Now let's take a look at our river readings. Looking at the Apalachicola at Bluntstown, it's reading a 2.3. Go on your chart there and move this. We're going to the Choctawhatchee River. The reading at Caryville is a 2.0, and both rivers are pretty steady. So you got some weekend freshwater fishing. We're looking at some not a lot of ebb and flow on the river system, especially those little creeks and all that are tributaries of those river systems. Now the marine forecast, we're looking today. It's going to come more straight out of the west is what they're calling for at about 10 to 15. So straight across the Gulf coming straight at us. So if you're offshore now, it's going to get a little choppy for you. Now on this segment also, let's do our fish and game forecast brought to us by Mark Coward of Counts Realty, and we're looking at a one time today from 11:31 to 1:31, right there in the middle of the day. So tell your boss you want to just take a 2-hour lunch and go take your pole down to the marina or something and have a good lunch there. Okay, let's take our break and we'll be right back with our guest. All right, welcome back to the show, and we see one familiar face and one new face, and I'm not going to say about an ugly face name, but we're going to welcome Rick. Good to see you, buddy.
Good morning.
And introduce our guest for us, so you brought him on. So.
Yeah, this is Dr. Jeremy Sincera, and he's with the new Dermatology Southeast. It's at 425 West 19th Street in the Shady Oaks Medical Center there with Dr. Matthews. They share the building. And they're actually, I've been seeing them for a long time because they're tied in with Tallahassee, Dermatology of Tallahassee, Dr. Armand Cognetta over there. And I've been seeing him since I had the bout with melanoma cancer back in '06.
Okay. So. Well, Doc, welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you. Now, listen, when we have a guest on, we always got to ask a little bit about our background now.
All right.
You're not from this local neck of the woods, so tell folks where you're from.
That's right. I grew up most of my life in Utah. Spent a lot of time hunting and fishing out there, doing a lot of bass fishing and tiger muskies and anything I could get my hands on. I like to do bow hunting.
Wow.
And so I'm looking forward to getting into some whitetail.
Well, you fit right in down here, buddy. I tell you, you got a lot of viewers out there that are already perking up listening. Did you hear what that doctor said? Utah's an outdoor state, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Absolutely gorgeous.
Yes, sir.
And,
phenomenal.
Okay, so you ended up down here, and what about college and all?
Yeah, I did most of my college in Utah. I spent some time up north doing some training, and then got down to Tallahassee and figured this area, the Panhandle, is where I wanted to stay and set down roots and do lots of hunting and fishing and just enjoy the outdoors. It's a great place with the weather to enjoy outdoors year round.
You got that right.
Yeah.
You got that right. Okay, now, I know you've opened up a place here, and of course you're taking new patients and all that.
Yes, sir.
And we're at that stage now when someone comes in and opens up, and we just want to welcome you down here.
Well, thank you.
And I know Rick and we talk this on a regular basis because of his experience, but there's so many of us outdoorsmen that are exposed to the sun.
Absolutely.
And I know you see it, that's your job and all. So tell us a little bit about what's going on there.
Well, fishermen in particular, I think all outdoorsmen, we spend a lot of time in the outdoors, but fishermen in particular, you're getting double the UV exposure, because you get it coming down and then you get it coming back off the water. So it's twice as nice, I guess, or twice as bad. But the important part is, I think, from that standpoint, is making sure that you're covered. I'm one of these people who, like most of y'all, probably don't like to put on sunscreen. Now, that's right, I'm a dermatologist, and I said I don't like to, but I still do. The big difference, though, for me is I spend a lot of time covering up, wearing a buff, wearing a broad-brimmed hat when I'm fishing, and trying to wear those long-sleeve shirts as much as I possibly can. And then I only have to put sunscreen on a limited area, the eyes and the back of the hands. But it's important, and in terms of staying out, in terms of avoiding melanoma and other skin cancers, that's the key, is staying covered and don't get burned.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought up about the buff, because that's a fairly recent phenomenon in protection compared to everything else. I wanted to ask you, I was thinking about last night, some questions to ask you. If you do wear a buff, do you still put on lotion on your face and put a buff on?
You know, I put on, what I would like to do is put it on anywhere where the buff's not going to be. So around the eyes, I'll focus on putting on sunscreen, and then the rest of it, you don't really have to. I think that's as long as your buff's going to stay on the whole day. Now, if you've got some time where it's going to be coming off and you're getting hot and you're dunking it, then you need to put it on. Just put it on the parts that you want to keep. So that's sunscreen.
That's a good question. And I started using one a couple of years ago, and when I first saw them, I said, that's the goofiest thing I've ever seen. And then the more I looked at it, researched it, I said, that's pretty smart, really. Yeah. So I started wearing them, but I get aggravated with them. You know, they turn sideways. I couldn't breathe good, but now they're making them breathing holes, and I highly recommend them.
Yep, and they're cheap.
They are.
They're not that expensive anymore. They're certainly cheaper than a visit to see me.
Yeah. And okay, the time of day. We always talk about the time of day. And
yes, sir.
I've always told my family, I've always said 10 and 2, just don't go out there. But anyway, you tell us.
That's exactly right. Between 10 and 2 are the hours that you want to avoid the sun. That's when it's sort of at its peak and strongest. So, you know, you should avoid it all day, any day, but that is the peak sun hours and the best time to avoid. Getting a nice bimini or investing in that extra sun protection will make a big difference if you've got to be outside during that hour, but trying to avoid those times as much as possible.
Yeah, and that's another testimony. If we're getting up early, like right now, and going and fishing and whatever, and start wrapping it up by the middle of the day.
Absolutely.
We've always done that a lot of times.
What you're doing, the hat you're wearing, your ears are still exposed.
That's true.
And that's why I went to this style hat,
Yeah,
palm leaf hat.
This is my show hat now. When I'm outdoors, I definitely have a wide brim hat.
You betcha.
And you're exactly right on that.
Yeah, makes a big difference.
Now, I was going to ask you, how often, according to age group, I know a lot of times the damage is done when you're teenagers and all, don't know any better.
Sure.
So.
That's true. A lot of the damage we see in terms of skin cancer comes from about 15 years prior. But that doesn't mean that you don't have another 15 years that you're going to be coming to see me in the future. So cancer is one of those things. It's basically you get exposure. The skin cells have DNA. Once the DNA gets damaged, it can turn into skin cancer. Well, the more you get burned, the higher chance that has of turning into an abnormal skin cell and therefore becoming cancer. So it's a cumulative life exposure. So while it's true a lot of damage comes in your early years, it's still coming in your later years. And it's similar with smoking. You know, a lot of folks, we tell them, if you stop smoking today, your life expectancy is increased, even though you've been doing it for 10 or 15 years. The same thing with the sun. It's another carcinogen, and your exposure to it as limited as much as possible, and that reduces your risk of cancer.
Well, you know, when I grew up as a youngster, we were out every day. I mean, every day. All I wore was a bathing suit in the summertime, and I would spend 4 to 6 hours in the lagoon or somewhere out in the open. You're getting vitamin D, it's good. But I got blistered every year I'd get blistered until I'd tan, you know, and being light complected like I am, I'd blister 2 or 3 times before I'd be able to hold a tan.
So many of us have done that.
Later I paid for it. And I don't recommend it for an afternoon's entertainment.
Okay, another question I thought of last night too, Doc. What about the SPF, the number? That's always a big debate.
Yep, there's always been a big debate, and the short of it is, the higher the number, the better. Now there was a study that came out that said it doesn't matter, and then there was 20 that came out that said it did. So my recommendation is always go with the highest SPF you can possibly find, because it does make a difference. A minimum of 30. I always tell patients, if you're putting on an SPF of 30, below 30, you might as well just be putting on water. So SPF 30 or higher is what we recommend. We also recommend that you reapply every 2 hours, which is tough to do, especially when you're fishing on the water. But I do my best to, especially that head and neck, keep that stuff covered up every 2 hours.
Okay.
Makes a big difference.
Good point there. Let's take a break. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back to the show. Hope you're getting ready for a big outdoor weekend here in Florida Panhandle. A special guest, Dr. Jeremy Sunseri, and he's located down at where now?
425 West and 19th Street, right there by the roundabout.
Right, the little Oaks Medical Center, that right, the little roundabout. Easy to find. And the phone number 818-0220.
Correct.
Okay, before we get back to them, we got one picture we got to show because the grandparents and parents and the neighbors are all watching this morning. This is a beautiful picture, a beautiful young lady and some beautiful fish here. This is Ernie Regadio, my neighbor down the road here. This is granddaughter, Jaluvan, Mahi, and like Rick pointed out, you have a female and a male there, and you can see the bull dolphin and the cow dolphin. They caught 6 and had a great time. And there's a great family over there. Enjoy riding my bicycle over there and seeing them. Always smiling and good neighbors and good fish there, honey. I'm glad you watch the show every morning. All right, now let's get back to one of the things you were mentioning off air, the self-exam. That we need to do that. So
Yes,
tell
sir.
us about that.
Well, melanoma is a dangerous skin cancer. It kills about 10,000 people each year. That's pretty close to about 1 person a minute. And the tragedy is that the vast majority of that could be avoided by just doing regular self-skin exams. You yourself, it's great to have a doctor look in on you once a year or something like that, but at least do it yourself once a month is what the recommendation is. Just go over from top to bottom. Men are much more likely to get melanoma on their back, so check your back, Jack. And just the important thing is doing it on a schedule from top to bottom, looking at your skin, anything new, anything changing, get it looked at and bring it to the attention of a healthcare provider. The melanoma is most dangerous, depends on how deep it is. Well, that depth is a factor of time, and so the more time it's there, the deeper it gets and the worse your prognosis becomes. But it's not like colon cancer where you can't see it and it's growing inside you. It's right on your back or on your skin someplace, and you can find it and bring it to the attention of a healthcare provider, and it's curative and you can survive it.
Yep, I can attest to that.
I've seen pictures of it. It has like little tentacles. As it gets deeper,
That's
it'll
right.
reach out.
That's right. And it grows and metastasizes readily. So
Yeah.
it's a bad,
Mine,
it's a bad
mine
bug.
I'm pretty sure started right up here behind the left ear.
Is that right?
Yeah, and
Now,
they got it in the first
why do
season.
you think that happened like that, Rick?
I have no idea, but I thought it was an ingrown hair, and then it kind of got better for a while. And then when they did the surgery, they cut there and they took out several lymph nodes. And so that's where I think it started, because it was kind of sore. It was almost like an ingrown hair. But then it got into the parotid gland right here. And I noticed it when I was doing a destroyer up in Bath, Maine. And I got a knot come up, and I called my dentist. I thought I had an abscessed tooth, and he said no. So when I got back here, Dr. Flights did a full x-ray, and he sent me to Dr. Toner. Toner did the first surgery, and he says, I don't have the skill level to get this off, which was fair of him, but he did a good job with the first one. So they made arrangement. I went to University of Alabama, Birmingham, and Dr. Marshall Urick got it off. And then I came back, D.B. Hurst at the cancer center here gave me radiation therapy. That's tough. But I'm good.
And how many years ago was this?
9 years ago this month.
What a great testimonial right there, that where you actually saw it, he saw what was going on, was smart enough to
And
go.
if I hadn't, I wouldn't have been here April of 07. And that's what they gave me, is by April of 07 I wouldn't be here.
Is that right?
Yeah, on the first go round. But after that, we managed to get it a handle on it.
So, doctor, you can't urge them enough to get it checked, can you? I mean,
Absolutely. Any questionable spot, get it checked. If you don't have insurance, we'll figure out something. There's docs out there will figure out something just to take a look and tell you it's okay.
I see him every 4 months.
And that's what I was going to ask you too. How often should someone who has a history, of course, every 4 months, but someone who doesn't have a history, what do you recommend? Once a year?
We generally recommend about once a year.
Yeah.
Especially for your initial screening. If you have skin cancer, we'll see you back more regularly than that, just to get on top of it. But about once a year is sufficient.
Man, when I go, I put that stuff on me, it burns. You burn all this stuff off. You still do that?
A little bit, but that's not for melanoma. I'll tell you that.
I know, just all these spots. I feel the next couple
that's
days.
like basal cell.
My students ask me, Coach, you been in a fight? But that's a good idea, though, to do that.
Sir. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Have there been any research, and we're talking about research, how funny you can prove this and prove that, and I've been in education my whole life, I tell you, and they found a study recently that said that teenagers learn better in the middle of the day instead of early in the morning. So we always go to school at 7:30, but some people wanted kids go to school later. So now our kids start at 8:30, and all the teenagers doing that we talk about in class, what they're doing, they're just staying up later. And getting the same, that's exactly what they're doing. So research can be crazy.
Yes, it can.
Yes,
But has been any studies on any kind of diet or anything that actually is going to affect? Have you seen anything on that?
There's a diet that shows that vitamin B3 has been helpful for overall skin cancers. It hasn't necessarily been associated with melanoma specifically. But that being said, there's lots of things about citrus and all sorts of things, but I haven't put much stock in it because there haven't been enough studies on them. One thing, there are some great new medications that have come out over the last 5 years for melanoma, where even bad melanomas you can have a significantly better outcome, but all of that stuff is avoidable, essentially, with early detection and early screening.
And I guess look at that one side, if everybody did all these things right, you wouldn't have a job, would you?
That's right. That's right.
But
I don't want a job. I'd rather fish. So.
We're going to get you into some fishing around here and show you some places to go and give you get you hooked up with some folks and all.
I look forward to it.
And you're going to really, really enjoy it. And how long you been here now?
I've been here a month. 1 month.
Okay. So. We want to welcome him to Panhandle Outdoors show, of course, and to the Florida Panhandle.
Well, I appreciate it.
There are a lot of our viewers that move in. Some moved in 10 years ago. Some moved in a couple of months ago.
I pestered Armand every time I went to him. I said, "You need to open an office over here. We need one."
Well, that was good. Good advice.
Yeah.
One of the things we do, Doctor, we always make sure on Friday that we give away some fresh seafood. You're talking about diet and all. I've always believed in fresh vegetables and fresh seafood. I think that's just healthy for you. And all kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
So, besides that, it don't taste real good either.
So well, I'm going to let you do the drawing. So every Friday we're going to give this away. The first name you put out of here is going to be $20 gift certificate of Tarpon Dog Seafood, and the second one's going to be a big red snapper. And then we're going to finish this up and come back with a famous Friday fishing report. Okay, so just reach in there and just try to get one name.
All right.
All right, now who is that? That's Tammy Heppenstall, Lynn Haven. Tammy, $20 gift certificate. And I know y'all will enjoy that. Now it's going to be for the big red snapper. Tarpon Dog Seafood graciously gives us each year. Lynn Richards from Southport. We know those folks. We know these folks, and good winners right there. So, good job there, and we want to thank you for coming on the show.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
All right. And Rick, thank you for bringing them, buddy.
Absolutely.
And, and we'll see you soon. I hope to see you soon. And I'm gonna get checked. I'm gonna when I leave here today, I'm gonna call your office and get my appointment.
We'll get you one.
And just don't be burning me too bad.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That's a deal.
Okay, we're gonna take our final break. Come back with a famous Friday fishing forecast. Welcome back to the famous Friday fishing forecast. We'll get started. We have some good information coming on. We don't have much time to get in depth, but let's get started. First of all, looking at freshwater. I wrote down last night to put it together. We talked earlier about the mayfly hatch on the river. It was really good this week. All kinds of different sources, as I've mentioned it, different people started talking about it. A lot of people saw it. That's one of those things. So we've got to be there. Probably this weekend it's probably over with, but you just got to stay on top of things and have a friend. If you can't go, have a friend. Go check it out. About mayfly hatch, we're going to talk about it next week about how often it happens and all. Also, let's start off on our western end of a viewing area. When Choctawhatchee Bay, you saw Victor Hathcote sending some really nice pictures of some really nice redfish and also some jack that he caught. It's in Hogtown Bayou, which is in the eastern end. On the eastern end of the Choctawhatchee Bay. Hogtown Bayou is some really good fishing, and of course you got this area in here. Then also the intercoastal is still catching some black drum, believe it or not. That black drum's been hot all year. Okay, let's move on over here to St. Andrew Bay. I got some people ask me to put the marker exactly where they are. I will. I'm going to show you exactly where the redfish were the early part of the week, because I actually saw the picture. This is the Lynn Haven Bridge, okay, going across here. This is a condo, marina condo, and this has happened before. Right in here, okay, were some huge schools of redfish. And what they did, I think from other people said, they came up across the bridge a little bit, but came back down around the North Shore area. There were some caught over in this area here. Again, this early part of the week. I do want to quickly move along though. Again, the redfish are really hot around the bridge on the outgoing tides. If you get some fresh crab and all floating out, and also the flounder. We're going to talk briefly about the flounder. Again, it's not peaked out all, but the flounder, they're catching some really nice flounder in some different areas. I've got some good reports on that. The big thing to keep in mind, the water temperature is still, you see on the chart, still not cooled down that much. I did want to mention, I wrote this down on the redfish in East Bay. I've got some reports. It's been slow over in East Bay, and just some of the regular areas. I haven't fished East Bay this past for a while now, but on the eastern end of here, across from the shipyard, there's some good, there's some really nice oyster bars in here around Farmdale, the old Farmdale area there. Let's go down to Mexico Beach. I'm going to read right here. I'm just going to read it from Florida Day's Adventure by Captain Mitch Coleman. He said the water's cooled about 80. It went from 87 to 85 down there. Good bite. They're catching some big kings around the wrecks there. The fall season opening trip, he ran 3 trips. They caught 15 red snapper, 9 between 8 to 10 pounds. The flounder over there at Mexico Beach are in about 50 to 60 foot of water, according to Mitch. And they fished around the rubble and reef areas. And what he's using now is just jigs tipped with fresh shrimp. Now, you just can't go wrong fishing jigs with fresh shrimp. That's just really, really good. I got to wrap it up, folks. Thank you all so much for the rest of this being on here. You have a great weekend. Do something good for your fellow man, and God bless.
Thanks for joining us for Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester. Panhandle Outdoors features hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.